Holy cow! All right. Well, now that I've got that out of my system, good morning. Brett, great to see you. Hello, hello. Zach, hello from Northern California. David, hello, hello. John, good morning. Guitar foot stool. So the funny thing is this is my mobile guitar footstool, but in my bedroom, I absolutely live and die by that thing, or live by it, or something. What is going on, Ron? Good morning. I remember that it's you. That doesn't mean that I will always remember, but good morning to you. Albert, what's happening? Okay, Paul Richard, hello. Chris Alexander. Okay, Guitar Link, please. I'm link to what? All right, first of all, I am very excited to be here this morning because, gosh darn it, I love playing guitar and I love hanging out with my fellow guitar brethren. Hopefully that is not a male-only kind of term. Brethren sounds kind of brotherly, but we'll choose to ignore that little bit of it. Good morning, Mike Rand. First of all, I saw your question last week, and judging, I hope you saw my reply. If you replied to my reply, I didn't see your reply to my reply, but legato. So the funny thing is that I've been working on a video for the Badlander because it's become my go-to amp, and yesterday I kind of came up with this. Progression, and it actually wrote it on the Strat that I've got that's tuned down a half step, and it. Just a little out of tune here after the flogging I gave this poor little instrument here, but it's got a mode changing in it. And when I kind of got up this morning, I thought, okay, I need to attempt to resuscitate my legato, because legato, like a number of the things I discovered yesterday as I was kind of working on this video, and it's kind of the heart and soul of what this 15-minute fundamentals thing that I've been thinking about pretty much every day is all about, is how do you keep things underneath your fingertips, such that if you're not having a chance to actively practice them, how do you at least get a chance to passively practice them? And so, first of all, Chris Alexander was kind enough to send through some of course, Chris's. Hang on a second. Let me get the right window open here. Where have you gone? I installed my streaming application and a few things moved around a little bit. So we're going to look for scenes. Where have my scenes gone? There we go. Okay, so the deal is that as part of one of my favorite parts of the show here, Chris's questions, we've got some great things that Chris brought to the table that kind of dovetail with Mike Rand's questions. So how do you build up hand strength and articulation and accuracy for legato? Are certain setups and fret sizes best for legato? What a great question. And then we'll talk a little bit more about some of those other things if we have a chance to get to them. Oh, there we go. Zach, speaking my love language. So that is worth diverting everything for. All right, Griffin, good morning to you. Don't tease us, release date. There we go. So with that in mind, Griffin, I do have some of the lovely coffee that you kindly sent me, and I really appreciate it for my 60th birthday. What a pal sends coffee. I am drinking something else this morning, but with no further ado, I think it is time, ladies and gentlemen, to raise them up. Griffin, you're kind of my official raise them up reminder guy, so let me know what you're drinking and where it is that you're drinking it. I am drinking Pete's coffee and my Optavia shake, so I can gather my energies. All right. Let me answer this real quickly. So the reality is I'm releasing both an instrumental and a vocal album. Spencer, good morning. Drinking water, had my 2 cups of coffee already. Come on. Thank you, Zach. Bottoms up indeed. All right. In the gym, but had some of the coffee earlier. Awesome. In the gym. I love that. So I need to turn that down probably a little bit. So the deal is that I'm releasing both an instrumental and a vocal album simultaneously because I don't have enough things to do. And so I'm going to alternate the singles, one and then the other. Almost undoubtedly, the first single that's going to come out is the one, an instrumental one with myself and Jared James Nichols, because Jared and I are both fellow Gibson folks, and hopefully my friends at Gibson are going to help us kind of start things rolling. There is an internal discussion in the vocal band as to what the first single is going to be, but I released a little clip of me. Actually, it's in D. That's part of the intro for a song called Linger. And one of the band members who sings a lot, we'll just leave it there, really wants us to release that as the first single. So I'm leaning towards going that way, but I haven't made up my mind officially. But the idea is we're going to basically layer those as they come out. Hello, Philip Hare. Great to see you, Dr. Phil. Agua purificada. Muy bien. All right, so that said, the other left turn here is I'm a big believer, and it's actually really great that I've got the strap on. So if I stand up, you'll notice that the guitar is sitting almost exactly where it sits when I'm standing and when I'm sitting. And the idea is that rather than having it over on my left leg where you lose access to the upper frets, you end up in this weird position, I've got it here. There is an interview that I did with John Petrucci that's not going to come out because we had a little bit of a technical thing around the video that we, no fault of mine, no fault of John's, it was just a thing. But in it, John's talking about how when he puts his foot up on the monitor, I think I can share this without divulging any strategic information. He's imitating what it's like to sit down in classical hand position and have the foot up. And I was like, John, I could kiss you, beard and all. Because for me, this is one of the most important things about getting the guitar in the same position sitting as when you're standing. Now, there are some people, and gosh darn it, Al Di Meola being the example, is Al kind of sits like this and kind of extends the guitar out like this. And when he stands, he's got the guitar kind of like that. And last time I checked, Al was not sucking when it comes to the technique. Now, the interesting thing is that I don't really know Al Di Meola, but the next time I see him, I'm gonna have to ask him about it, because I'm gonna say, look, when it comes to technique, both acoustic and electric, you'll almost always see a classically trained guitarist sitting with the guitar on their left leg. There will usually be one of those little footstools. So this is important because for you, the ability, regardless how much or how little you play live, the ability to take your sitting practice time and your standing playing time and have those be as congruent as possible, it's invaluable. And I've been harassing people about this for years because it really, really matters. And again, the classical hand position is the idea is if your hands are at your side, the instrument is roughly parallel with your body. And so as you bring your hands up, they're in a natural position to just do that, right? When it's over here, this starts happening. You start doing this. The other thing is that it's funny. I met Paul Gilbert when he was 16. And I saw a little clip of him on Facebook, I think with the Rick Beato interview, and he's talking about the strings that he's using. And he uses a 46 on the bottom, and the rest is an 8.5 set. And he was talking about, well, I'm not a kid anymore. And it was just so funny because in my mind, Paul Gilbert is still this 10-foot tall 16-year-old that I met at JIT. Literally, I think the first day he showed up. This little red Strat. And he was insane then, but you probably knew that. But the point being, is the idea is you want to make sure that you're relaxed. And this is, in my opinion, the most natural position for your body to get into. While we're going to have this micro conversation, the other thing that I talk about, because we're going to be talking about legato today, is the thumb gently kissing the back of the neck. That is to say, if you saw your grandma at a family gathering, you're not going to give her a big knocker over kind of peck. You give her a gentle peck on the cheek. And that same amount of pressure is how much pressure we want to use on the thumb. Hang on a second. Now, I can't guarantee what else is going to be in this frame, but we can get that right there. So the idea, as you're looking down the neck, you've got this thing happening here. It's only the smallest amount of pressure to keep the neck from being pushed back. And further, did I mention that I hate flipping headstock tuners? But they are kind of an invaluable part of my equation. By the way, this is a Thomas Nordig trick. You put it on the back of the headstock, going the wrong direction there. But the idea is the fingertips, all you do is apply enough pressure to get the note to fret. And this is a big deal for a lot of people. Now, I will say, like most things, there are some exceptions. For example, when I'm doing that sort of stuff, I am grabbing the neck with enough force that I could carry it around like this. And in that sense, I am getting pretty grabby both with the thumb and the first finger. And it's basically, if you took the analogy of a capo and you turned it like this, that's essentially what's happening to gather that necessary tension on the neck to keep it from going anywhere, such as I do a bend or a release bend or anything that you might be doing that. Where I'm needing that little bit of hanging on power, I'm doing that there. But the interesting thing that you got to watch out for, and I've noticed with the right hand, so this is talking to you, it's a tendency once you start gripping harder with the right hand to start, with the left hand to start playing harder with the right hand. So just be conscious of that. All right. The footstool that I've got is just a very simple, traditional, classical thing. At some point, I'm going to get smart and put all my links together and make it so that people can find any of the things that I regularly suggest or would regularly suggest to Vast. It lives in my bedroom. I've got a spot in my bedroom that at this point, I'm about 4 days of the week that I sit. My phone is there. I've got it at 80 BPM, and I sit there and I just practice scales, chords, and arpeggios. And that little footstool is right next to kind of where my shoes live. I pull it out. It's always kind of set up. I've got it set up so it's at a little bit of an angle. And that's just part of my regular routine. Again, the ring on this chair here serves as the same thing. So I'm gently elevating the guitar like that. And again, just guess what? It's elevating it to the same angle of where it sits when I'm standing. When I'm standing. But that, yes, where the guitar, if you will, sits at resting position. It's basically identical. And I pretty much, all these guitars, if you were to kind of check out the straps, they're set about the same way. And that's really important. All right. So with that said, there we go. So hang on a second. Let me go in chronological order. For me, I started using left footstool. Come on. Oh, there we go. After watching a lot of Rusty Cooley's vids, and my hands are nowhere as big as his. Rusty's awesome. Just awesome. All right. Ordered Ernie Ball stainless steel 9 through 42. Okay, I'm not going to take the string bait yet, but I will talk a little bit about strings as we talk about legato. All right. I'm glad that I showed up. Currently talking classical guitar lessons at my local college. Proper sitting and right hand position is not natural to me. Bad habits formed of years of rock playing. So, the funny thing is that there is a piece that I'm going to tie into all of this. What is good legato technique, right? So the heart and soul of what I'm going to talk about today, or at least a big portion of it, is going to be on legato playing. And the interesting thing is I have been playing next to no legato. So this chord progression that I came up with for the boogie video, basically what I initially did for that, really next to no hammer-on and legato work besides a few little slides there. So this morning I kind of came down and I kind of went, okay. One of my favorite things about guitar and working on gear videos is I sometimes have to resurrect different techniques. I play lots of different styles, and I've spent enough time that when I come back to them, sometimes I may be rusty, but after kind of filing the rust off, I kind of find back my vibe, and I'm able to usually kind of dig a little bit deeper in whatever it is that I'm going for. In this particular case, this morning I came down and went, okay, I have to find my legato thing. And the interesting thing about this chord progression, good morning, David, great to see you. Hello. Oh, awesome. I took this advice from you about sitting about a year ago. It helped me tremendously with standing while playing. Awesome, 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 awesome. So, right, wrong, good, bad. Generally speaking, this classical hand position where the left hand and the thumb are gently moving together. And that way you've, again, got enough pressure with the thumb just kissing the neck so the neck doesn't get pushed back. And the fingers are only providing enough tension to actually go from, again, a muted note to a fretted note. There are a couple of reasons for that. One is one of the questions that Chris alluded to was fatigue. If we're putting too much energy on fretting the notes, our hand's going to fatigue. The other thing is if we're gripping too hard, our hand's going to fatigue. The other thing is we could hurt our hand by gripping too hard. So that's one of the important things about we're just as loosey-goosey as we could be, and almost like, with the left hand, I kind of make an analogy of almost like you're throwing a bowling ball, right? It's just going straight ahead, and you're bringing the hand up like that. And it's literally kind of, if you're Italian, whatever it is, that's a really, really important thing. Thank you, Mark. You are one of my benchmark listeners, so, and brethren, I should say. But I'm trusting if I can hit the benchmark with you. We share enough in common. I've watched you play. You got classic rock oozing out your back pocket. So I can't wait for you to hear that. Thank you. All right, Focus Fox. So the idea is this technique just kind of lives with you, right? And so if we were to take a chord progression, which is a really important thing, because if we don't have an out working, we kind of don't know how to take our subdivisions, because when we're practicing, we have a metronome living in my pocket. Is that a bulge in my pocket, or is that my iPhone? Did I really say that? It's my iPhone, by the way. So the deal is that if I were to just kind of pull it out, there it is at 80 BPM, right? And so the idea is that's analogous to a couple of really important things. Is that if I'm practicing scale, I'm not really wanting to sit at 80 BPM this morning. So what it begins to tell you is things about your technique and your time. First of all, we're looking for consistency. One of the important things about legato is not just the technique, but the feel. And this is why playing over a little piece of music most of the time when we think of legato, we're thinking of it can be played with intensity, but it's got this. So interestingly enough, the piece I decided to throw at myself has got this mode change in the midst of it. So but I always like a challenge. So the deal is that the left hand being loose, but having some musical way to apply it is really important. So being relaxed is one of the things. The idea of this last arch, let's see if I can do this here. Right here. See how this comes out. Come on. You right there. This last arch on your fingertips, that's curled and arch. That's a big part of how you get the articulation on those notes. There you go. You can, the first finger, all right. So I attempted this morning to put together a little curriculum for today, but I got so distracted playing that didn't happen. So please forgive if this is slightly disjoint, but the most important part of all of this is probably the first finger. Why? When we're playing, whether it's legato or not, the first finger is doing a couple of really important things in combination with the right hand. Let me go back to this other shot here. So the deal is that if I'm playing on the sixth string, the fleshy part of the first finger is muting the upper string so they don't ring. So only the sixth string's going to ring. When I move over to the fifth string, the only string that's going to ring is going to be the fifth string. The tip of the first finger is touching up against the side of the sixth string. When I move over to the fourth string, now my right hand is muting the sixth string. And I am hitting all six strings there, by the way. If I undid all of that and just went like this, that's what it sounds like. But this guy, and again, at the 5th fret, I knew I was going to potentially get some harmonics. So the idea is the right hand is muting the 6th string, the tip of the 1st finger is muting the 5th string there. And then that same concept follows through. That is a really, really important underlying principle, because it means that as you're kind of taking your right hand away from the strings to, because sometimes you'll do this kind of articulation like, and I will, in those moments, I should really have my foot switch hooked up. Now I can't keep my right hand, but the sound of that is part of that sound. So the idea is that the majority of the time we're keeping the right hand close to the strings and the left hand doing what we were just talking about there. An obvious place to start is the key of G major, the 3-note per string scale. In terms of the left hand, one of the things you're also looking for, besides the 1st finger basically being what kind of those over the neck kind of mute things. And by the way, I never play with one of those. It's just I've chosen to take myself to task to try and do the things that I try and do, that I don't need an extra kind of mute there. So the deal is these fingers here have a lot of curl and arch, and that is where the articulation so the idea would be to initially just kind of get a moment and just kind of get comfortable with each of the strings. So I like doing things in 4Zs, 2Zs, and 1Zs. As stupid as that sounds, it's kind of fun. Now, as I was doing that, I was thinking about a couple of other things. Why 4 times in each string? So your hands really get used to the feel of what it's like to hang out there on that 4th string. So before we go across the strings like that, it's a good idea to really get comfortable with where the right hand and the left hand kind of meet as we're playing on each one of those strings. The other thing about this arch that's super important is when we're both hammering on and pulling off, that we're not getting unwanted strings. So that by, for example, being on the 2nd string, I have enough arch that I am not, first of all, hammering on with that pinky note. And when I'm pulling off, I'm not taking that high E string with me. And that's also one of the functions of having that 1st finger. If I'm playing on the 2nd string, that 1st finger is down, muting that string again, not fretting it, not letting it ring, but muted. Okay, so there, again, hang out on each string is going to be one of the great ways to kind of build your endurance, because there's a certain amount of the going back and forth that expends energy. So if you get some time just hanging out on each string, that's one of my favorite little sequences. Up, down, up, down, up, 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 down. That's down, up, down, up, down, 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 up. So motion. sorry. Now, I had to have a talk with my third finger this morning. That's not my middle finger. That is my third finger. Because I notice from time to time I'm collapsing that last joint, that arch there. I'm collapsing that guy right there sometimes. And you want to keep that articulation, because that's where, if you made the analogy of plucking the string with your right hand, you don't kind of allow the finger to collapse. You're plucking. And that's essentially what we're doing, is we're plucking the string to the lower note. Now, we may have come from a pluck to that note beforehand, but the tendency can be, if you're not careful, to collapse that, right? So another thing is that, and again, I apologize I don't have a little bit more of a curriculumized approach to this, but I got so carried away playing this morning again. Good morning, Brett. Let me get over to you in just a second. The idea is, I also, for equal volume, I just years ago started using only downstrokes for legato. I just find that it just allows me to have a little bit more consistency around the volume, and downstrokes do sound different than upstrokes. If you think about false / pinch harmonic, that littlest tiny bit of distance changes the harmonic, and it also, if you think about the point right here and the point right there being the points that cross the string, a credit card will do. If you think it's crossing the string there and then crossing the string there, it's going to sound different. But again, the great thing about the downstrokes, it just gives you a more consistent volume, and you can more easily, because you're not doing any upstrokes and not worrying about crossing strings and going, oh, I'm doing it down, I'm doing it up, what am I doing here? It just makes it a little bit more consistent. All right. Constantly remind myself to lighten my touch. Used to it anyway. Light touch is one of the keys to good legato technique, in my opinion. So here's the thing. I agree with you, but I'm going to also, as I was kind of playing this morning, I noticed some of the legato stuff that I do. I'm mother plucking, playing that hard. Versus where I will actually be softer. So that is to say, akin to like. So, which is better? Where do you start? Because you're right, and generally speaking, if I were going to suggest to somebody start off playing legato, keep it light. But so what does that mean? Let's say we got a dynamic range of 1 to 10. That's both the right hand and so that's a combination of hitting the hammer-ons louder and the pull-offs. That's kind of cool. I don't think I've ever done that before. The point being is one of the things, let's see if I can demonstrate that musically. That right there is kind of what it is with legato. It's that ding it. That way, so with the left hand, oh, I'm sorry, M and C. So it's a combination of playing softer especially if you're thinking about a quiet passage. Hang on a second. Good morning, Sonia. I missed you there. Hello, hello, hello. It was a pleasure. Guten, what is it? Guten Tag? What is that? It's evening there. All right. By the way, in theory, Sonia, Fulcrum is there. I'm supposed to, in theory, with my buddies at, well, probably shouldn't say it, going to be doing, once I'm done with the Boogie video, doing a video on the Nano Cortex. And I think I'm going to build 6 rigs around that, including my desktop rig, with the one and only Fulcrum. So stay tuned. All right. Which, by the way, that's kind of my favorite mouse desktop expression pedal. As probably Sonia probably cringes that I'm like, why put it on the desk when it's meant to be on the floor? All right. The point being is that the level of articulation allows you to create dynamic intensity in the track, right? A little louder. So for those types of runs in particular, that's where I'm really kind of, come on, there we go. I'm looking for right there. I'm trying to get the max amount of volume, and there it's, I do find myself, I generally, we didn't talk about this, but generally with legato, you want to keep that left hand really loose. Oh, by the way, for all the nerds who are already kind of have your legato up and running, let me just throw kind of a deeper end exercise for you to keep your mind occupied. If you were to take G major and think of that as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, and G door and G, think of that as 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1, and we're going to include the 2 and the 3 up the dot. Oh, sorry. There we go. Ooh. My hand doesn't like that today. Well, that right there is fatigue. So that's basically taking each of the 7 modes and just kind of walking up and down the high E string. That will keep you busy. Now, one of the things about this, let's just make the analogy of a waiter balancing a little cart or what do you, a tray. Part of carrying something like that, I've never waited tables and carried trays, but my guess is not straining so you can just stay relaxed, right? So the tendency is the further you get along in that, when you begin to feel yourself start fatiguing, you actually start to strain. The whole point is you actually need to relax. It's kind of like what happens when you speed up in the time. You just need to take on, for me, I actually tell people to take a physical breath and you relax back in the time. But the point being, there's enough legatoing going on there that, like, by the way, if you feel it starting to strain or hurt, stop. Take a rest. And if you have strained yourself, get some sort of ibuprofen or something that is an anti-inflammatory, because you want to protect these guys. You know, if you're not where you want to be, that's okay. I'm with you. But the idea of hurting yourself in the process of trying to get there, it's not worth it. So just listen to your body. It's going to give you feedback. There's a difference between fatigue and strain, but they are related. So hang on a second. There's lots of interesting comments coming on here. So hang on a second. Hey, Rick, I was wearing your shirt the other day, my friend. How are you? Okay. Okay. Eric Martin Bureau, good morning, my dear friend. Rick, we're in the process of alternating, prepping to alternate instrumental and vocal album tracks soon-ish. Thank you, my friend. I owe you a phone call. Great to see you. You can see your guitar is right. Oh, let's see. I can put it with my stuck right there. Never far, my friend. What's going on, Rick? Great to see you. Hello, hello. Good morning. Oh, thank you. You know, the funny thing is Paul, and I'm going to kind of go through here and just answer these real quick. And we're going to come back to this legato thing. I am constantly fighting a battle to create more space on my hard drive. And where did it go? The crazy thing happened yesterday. Every so often, I'm a bit of an idiot when I get impressed by technology. A big part of the album prep process was me here and my buddy Peter Keys, who unashamedly, I say, plays in Skynyrd. Somehow I get to play with the guy that plays in Skynyrd. You know, it's just one of those things. But I would kind of send a little something for him to play over, and I'd send him the Dropbox thing in 15 seconds. He's listening to the track I just did here. I'm just like, it just kind of blows my mind. So in any case, this right here is the T9 drive from my good folks over at Toshiba. I don't know them, but I basically I needed another one. I just bought a 4 terabyte drive. And the thing about it is I ordered it yesterday, and 2 hours later it shows up on my front porch. I'm like, holy cow. How did I get there from this Easy Drummer thing? That, I believe I said I went in and I loaded up Superior Drummer 3 was on that one because I was clearing out some space, and I got rid of some of my old sounds from one of my... No. Oh, I take that back. That is not Superior Drummer. The other thing I did yesterday was Superior Drummer. That is actually something which, if you guys don't know about... First of all, Superior Drummer is awesome. It's a kind of drag and drop, sample-based MIDI application for getting your groove on. And pretty much all the music I've written was for these albums was done on that. We are left turning here, but we're far enough into the legato thing. I'm comfortable with giving myself a little bit of leeway. The idea is, if you're working in your DAW, you instantiate a track in Pro Tools that is going to be an instrument track, and it basically loads MIDI and audio. And then you kind of go into the little player and you choose a pattern that you like, and you play along with that pattern. Then you drag that MIDI onto the timeline. You can play different drum kits. The challenge is the drum kits themselves. Once you've downloaded all of them, because I'm an endorser of theirs, I guess. No, not I guess. I am an endorser of theirs. I have gigabytes of sounds, not all of which I need. So I was kind of offloading some sounds onto a drive so I could have some extra space, but still going back and testing, making sure I didn't break anything. In any case, there's also another company out there called Yurt Rock, and this little groove here. Where are you? That is a Yurt Rock. That's kind of how this morning went when I was supposed to be prepping for you. All right, the idea, those are actual audio, they're WAV files. And you drag and drop them on the timeline. They're already set with a set BPM. So you kind of go into this folder that's got all. I bought everything that they made. Every so often, they have a 50% sale. Hang on just one second, which they were doing just the other day. Hang on just one sec. Let me see if that is still active. 50% on all Yurt Rock products. Oh, it's Halloween. I think that's probably ended. That was 5 days ago. But here's the deal. You got Black Friday coming up. They will invariably have everything at 50% off. So you just kind of wait. It's one of the other places that I go. I love Easy Drummer and Superior Drummer. They have been my go-tos. They are everything to me. But it's always nice to have another group of sounds. So that's what I got to say about that. And thanks, Paul. Always appreciated. Okay. Okay, so that's an interesting thing because one of the things that I was doing in the midst of all of this, yes. So when we traditionally think of legato, hang on. Let me just go in and get caught up on all this, and I'm going to make a mental note, and actually I'm going to make a note over here in my notes. Legato and sweeping. That way it will be staring at me. Okay. Let me just check in with everybody here. Jeff, great to see you, my dear friend. I don't think I'm going to be at the Jeff Wasco event, but I take it you are. So I'm sorry I'm going to miss you, my dear friend. Great to see you. Thanks for saying hi. All right, hang on a second. All right, so let's talk a little bit. I'm going to make a note here, drive, because that is another key point to this. Thank you very much, Rick. Oh, wait, hold on. There it is. There we go. Flight of the Bumblebees without a delay pedal. You're a funny guy. Good morning, Stephen. How are you? Note for note. All right, Radar, I got you. Steve, always a pleasure. This is a great reminder to work on techniques as part of the lesson. I love that. Doug, what's going on? You have the best name ever. So right back at you. Good morning. All right, Eddie, hello. I love this guitar. Good morning to you. I like that snap there too. All right, good. Hello, Melissa. I know you. I think I saw you a little earlier. Brad, how are you this morning? Great to see you. Always a pleasure. Die-hard member of the community. I love that. But why you need drums? We are the guitar player. True that. The funny thing is, and I'm making notes, so I'm not gonna miss the plot here. As I was hanging out with this guy. Crazy thing that I've discovered, amongst other things. So I'm going to take a gentle left-hand turn there. I'm going down the list here. I've made notes, focused. In my band, I have Peter Keys, who is my favorite keyboardist. I've got Caleb Johnson, who's my favorite vocalist. Angeline Saris, who's pretty much my favorite bass player. I have a couple of other favorite bass players, but she is as favorite as they get, in all honesty. Zorro, the drummer, that is to say, Stanley Clark is somebody that since I was yay tall, I was like, someday I want to play with Stanley. I don't think Angeline would be insulted. All right. Zorro the drummer, my favorite drummer. And the crazy thing is he's known for Bobby Brown and Lenny Kravitz and New Edition. He's one of the best funk drummers ever. But he's also a phenomenal drummer. So the interesting thing is you're listening to a mix and you're playing along looking for where you're going to sit as a guitar player. Generally speaking, hi-hat, pretty much, if you will think about Pro Tools as a grid, hi-hat's pretty much on the grid. The kick drum, also known as a bass drum, generally pretty much on the grid. The snare is pulled back a little bit. So the bass player is kind of interpolating all of that inside their groove. So as I was kind of going into the most recent round of recordings, I was initially, particularly on this one particular track, there was enough girth in a really great way to where Zora was sitting, not just kind of like this, but in a wide range of places. I used to describe it as a banana, where it just kind of has this kind of width. And also, in the midst of the snare drum being pulled back, there's and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 2 3 2 2 3 3 2 3 4 3 1 3 2 3 3 3 4 3 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and somewhere between the 1 3 2 3 3 3 4 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you can pull that eighth note back a little bit, and you're adding a little bit of the swinging banana. But I can't unsee the image in my mind. So the idea is that you're adding this degree of swing. So the banana is reflecting how far the snare drum is pulled back, as well as how much swing there is that's happening there. And so the bass player kind of has to navigate all of that for them to sit. And so playing with Angeline, there was a period of time where like, I'm just going to really focus on Angeline. But I found that once Caleb, I had Caleb's vocal track in, I'm like, oh, I need to listen to the vocalist. And finally I just went, no, I need to listen to the drums. But when I muted everything and just played with the drums and then brought the vocals in, I'm like, no, I need to listen to the drums and I need to have the vocals in at the same time, but not quite as loud, because they're all kind of doing their own version of the way the time sits as it relates to each of their respective instruments. The voice is an instrument, if you will. And so in the process, I was like, wow, I don't quite know what that means, but it means that I need to be paying attention to everything that's going on and kind of going, this is what it feels like when I'm locking with the bass. This is what it feels like, with specifically for how they're locking with the drums, which is a really smart place to go, in my opinion, because it works. But when I'm just listening to this, I am locked into the groove in a way that I'm like, okay. So that is a very long-winded way of saying, if you're going to listen for anything, and I'm not being snarky, Eddie. First of all, I appreciate the comment, appreciate you watching. I love that. I find that when I listen to the guitar, I start getting excited, and guess what I do? I rush. And I hang my head in shame, because the musicians I play with, they're kind of better than I am. And I'm okay with that. There's nothing like being the not best person in the room kind of going, look at who I'm surrounded by. And I just have to play up to it. I don't get intimidated by it. I don't get freaked out by it. I just kind of like, okay, pull up your bootstraps and just get to work. But I find that when I let myself get excited by the time and I'm doing stuff, I'm not doing my part. And my part means I need to be listening as much as I'm playing. And again, I'm not being a dick, so please know my heart. It's like, I am a guitar player. I'm wired like a guitar player. I do all the guitar player things, including speeding up when I listen to the guitars because I start getting excited. So that's all I got to say about that. All right, let's see here. But yes, at the end of the day, we are the guitar players. Progressive Foundry Kit. Oh, that's funny. I love that. Okay, good. Native Instruments 500 gigabytes. Oh no! Don't tempt me. All right. Which SDXs do I recommend? Okay, Let me spend a little bit of time and do a little bit further research on that. Any good research for mixing, producing us mortals that don't have axes. So, little left hand turn. Um, okay. So it's so funny that you asked this. So you got to understand, Griffin. I think about you. Cheers. Pretty much every day. So there is a product that I'm going to sooner than later bring to market called 15-minute fundamentals. And the concept is, like you might have heard me say before, is in 15 minutes you can go through the things that you just need to keep underneath your fingertips and build. The goal is not speed; it's about building muscle memory. And the initial idea was every day would be the same workout, and I kind of thought, are people going to get bored with it? And I kind of realized I basically do that same workout. But what ended up happening this week is I ended up doing, without looking at the clock, I did a 30-minute fundamentals, and I kind of went through all the things that I wanted to go through, and I'm not yet decided. Does that mean it really needs to be a 30-minute fundamentals, and maybe the first half is decided? So if you can only do 15 minutes, do that. Or am I going to go back to this crazy idea of making it more complicated and having different workouts for different days? I don't know yet, but I'm chewing that through. And yes, Sonia. So the thing is, it's an interesting thing. This right here is a drummer who invariably lives by the click, but is also tracking with the click in mind, right? That's different than getting in the room and playing. So you couldn't be any more correct. Now, noting that I've made some notes of the points that I'm going to come back to. Oh, Alex Van Halen. So apparently Alex Van Halen has terrible back problems that I've heard. And essentially sold a bunch of his kits. One of the greatest drummers ever. Amazing groove. To the best of my knowledge, Van Halen never cut anything to a click because they didn't need to. So the crazy thing that happened is on the second video shoot, we're in my buddy. We recorded 4 videos at 2 locations. The second video was at a place called Warehouse 231. And for the second video, my buddy Earl there has a great recording studio and a phenomenal live/tracking room. So we're kind of there in the round in there. And I'm kind of in the midst of kind of bringing stuff in and out, getting kind of my alternate rig. We're playing to tracks, but we're playing. And so as I'm kind of, that is to say, we're playing to the pre-recorded tracks that we prepped, so everything would be in sync and everything's cut to a click and all of that, so you can edit different pieces together. It's the only way to do it, right? But as I'm kind of doing this, the band's playing, and I'm listening to them lock and play, and there wasn't a click to be had. And Zorro, first of all, his time's phenomenal, but listening to the musicians interact, I was like, wow. And just the feeling of the organic nature when musicians play together. However, most of us don't have that as our, if you will, regular muse. So we've got to kind of figure out how we do that. And in turn, how we then negotiate playing with a real drummer. First of all, the tendency of a guitar player to speed up. I'm just, I like to, if I'm not really conscious, get excited and speed up. It's just one of those things. I've learned to play with the click, and I love playing with the click, but the tendency is to, just get a little excited. So you really got to kind of watch yourself. The great thing is, because Zorro's the person I'm playing in the studio with here, playing with him there, I kind of know how to attach myself to what he's doing. But it was very exciting to watch them playing when I wasn't playing. So they're just going to various funk songs and some Zeppelin, and I'm just watching, just kind of going, this band. They didn't need a guitar player. All right. All right. Okay, it's been mad rainy here on the Oregon coast, so I've been surprised to pick up out of tune guitars today. Yes, right. Okay, Alex. Yes, Larry was telling me some producers will slide the tempo for what is that, beats to approximate the live feel. Okay. Slide the tempo 4 something beats. What does that mean? Oh, there we go. 4-ish beats. So, last thing before I go back to these guys. So if you're using MIDI drums, where you got some samples, so they're basically, they have these what are called velocity layers. So they'll have the drummer sit there and hit the snare louder and louder. And then you have the ability to they translate a drummer's performance, and it reads that, translates into MIDI, so the velocity and all of that. So one of the things you can do is you can go in and randomize one of those patterns, or if you were going to create your own MIDI pattern from scratch, most everything kind of ends up on the grid. You can just arbitrarily start pulling the snare drum back a little bit, and you'll kind of see where you like in terms of elasticity from the grid visually where you like it to be. And in turn, if you go into the velocity layer, or I should say the velocity of that MIDI note, you can just arbitrarily bring it up and down. So it begins to approximate the drummer kind of hitting it a little louder, a little softer. And what begins to happen is the sound of the drum will change as well. So it's not just going up and down in terms of volume. It's also going up and down in terms of which sample out of the various velocity layers it's triggering. So that's one of the ways you can humanize all of that in a good way. All right. Let me get back to Albert's great question about the fine line between legato and sweeping. A little Kirk Hammett there. So the idea is one of Kirk's kind of favorite little arpeggio guys. Now, I actually see there's a legato element, in my opinion. And if we go back to pentatonic. So, is not legato, right? Traditionally, when we think of legato, we have a tendency to think of modal legato a la Joe Satriani, Alan Holdsworth, right? I think I can talk about this. I can talk about a little bit of it. I was someplace where I had a chance to sit with Joe Satriani, and I had a bunch of my albums with me because I purposely wanted to talk about these iconic pieces of music with him. It was really cool because, Joe Satriani is, first of all, a brilliant guitar player, but he's a fan of music, right? And he's a listener of music, and he's worked with a huge number of the producers that produced the records that were in that stack. And as we were talking about it, there's a song called Waterfall off of Are You Experienced? And that's the first place you hear Hendrix do that little legato technique. It's before Holdsworth. It's before any of the people we think of when we think of legato. And I said, Joe, that piece in Waterfall, he was like, yeah. So I was like, because I just always had a feeling, but of all the 1,000 questions I'd like to ask Joe, that was one of them. But it was an affirmation that particular thing, so it doesn't have to be modal music. Oh, sorry, let's actually pick a key. I'm attempting to build some sort of pentatonic legato thing. So if you were to take pattern 1 of the G minor pentatonic, whose notes are G, B flat, C, D, F, G, B flat, C, D, F, G, B flat, and you would kind of basically take this 1-4, 1-3, 1-3, 1-3, 1-4, 1-4, and you kind of go. So you're just kind of going 4 notes. And so it starts with 4. I guess the whole thing. No, let me see. Yeah, so I would say it ramps up 4 notes, slides back down, then goes down basically from this note, including this note. It's 6 notes. And that note right there is kind of, if you will, the combined turnaround note between, sorry, where this lick ends. Let's say it ends there. This one starts here. Something like that. Sorry. Should be. Sometimes as I'm just working stuff out, I get a little excited and I speed up instead of playing it at tempo. Bad habit, don't do that. That I can certify as a bad habit. All right, so legato and sweeping, if you think about the pentatonic, there I'm just taking everybody's favorite pair of strings, the third and the second, and taking the, and I've been kind of looking at different ways, again, perspective, my favorite word, the upper note on the third string, and both notes on the second string, and basically starting with the upper note on the third string, sweeping through, starting with a downstroke, sweeping that through to the lower note on the second string, playing the upper note on the second string with an upstroke, and then doing a pull-off, and then taking that, and I spent a little bit of time working on this the other day because I absolutely sucked at it. And that little spot right there, because you got to get, first of all, every single one of these has got a pinky note in it. So it's like, so it means it's already awkward to begin with. So you got to get from without a gap, right? All right, that's the awkward one because it goes from. So that's the pinky, second and fourth, right? Yeah. So is that so that's it. All right, so that is to say legato and sweeping combined, right? Because in theory, all that is hitting every note is supposed to. So, in my opinion, that type of sweeping is included in kind of what I would consider, yeah, it's hammer-ons on pull-off, but I'm thinking of that as legato too, right? It's not that sort of thing that we think about, but it's still legato in my opinion. So to me, there is a very strong connection. Literally the other day, I'm like, oh, let me mine this. I find that because most of the time where we have a tendency to do this is on the third and second strings, that's, right? That's where I decided, all right, fine, let me just go to work and do this. Most of the time, and I encourage you to challenge yourself on this. If there's something that I'm having a hard time doing, I'm going to run towards it instead of running away from it. It's probably because I have years of practice or going, oh, let me just go do something easier. And instead, I'm just like, well, let's just let's run towards this thing that's a challenge. Um, uh, yeah, Alex's feel is just insane. Uh, oh, awesome! Oh, awesome! Oh, thank you. Awesome. Well, awesome, fantabulous. Okay, uh, back to the notes. Okay, so Rick, you pointed out. The funny thing is that is not. That's about as distorted. All right. In case you hadn't noticed, I'm a bit of a George Lynch fan. But this is actually about as distorted as I play these days. And so the funny thing is considering, as I plugged into this, I thought, oh, I'm playing with a lot of gain today. I'm actually rarely there's a clean, crunch, and a crush channel. I'm actually on the crush. Mode in the two channels on the bad line are identical. But I did find myself moving from what's going on, Adam? You are right on time, my man. Okay, so first of all, hello. Second of all, welcome back. Reminds me of I was on my way to an event and I messaged the person at the event. I'm usually pretty timely, but it was the first day we were setting up, and I didn't really have to be there until, a little bit later. I knew when I needed to be there, and so the guy leading the event said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm late." And he said, "Late isn't a place." I'm not encouraging you to be late or be at a place other than where you're supposed to be, but it was kind of a funny thing. All right. So in terms of the amount of drive you need, I've been really enjoying, and this is kind of one of the things that Peter Keyes that's actually one of the solos off of a song called Hell or High Water. And Peter, keyboardist, was harassing me. He said something like on a slightly snarky, but very loving and affectionate. Like, "Oh yeah, all those great clean tones you're getting, Doug." And he was just like, and so I kind of went, "Oh, well, let me revisit this a little bit more." So the interesting thing about the right amp is it's going to provide, even if your volume is down. I'll move over the bridge. It's going to provide enough natural compression, if you will, that you got a little grease on the notes. And I find, per your question, I didn't answer it very articulately, or your comment, I think more than pure distortion, a little bit of grease and a little bit of compression. And I don't mean of compression in the front end of the amp, although that could be one of the ways to get there. But as you listen to the notes there, there's a little bit of give that's happening at the power amp section. I'm running direct out of the back of the amp into Pro Tools. And the IR that I'm defaulting to mostly these days on both those amps, it's over there, but it's the 112 rectifier cabinet. That's one that John Petrucci has used a lot. I love when I'm playing live. Let's see if I can actually point to them. There we go. There. My oversized rectifier cabinets, even if I'm playing a smaller venue, I'm like, we're bringing both of those. I like just having that much sound filling the space, even if I'm not playing at the normal bone-crushing volume that I do enjoy the most. But the point being is that 112 rectifier cabinet sounds really great in a mix, and that is an important thing. There was a comment. Right. So Drive. Let me finish Drive, and then I'm going to come back to recording. Because you bring up a really good point, Griffin. All right, so the Drive, I'm not going to go back there and put the amp on clean, but, the thing is that when we're practicing, let's say the 15 or 30-minute fundamentals, oh, I'm a bad influence. Everybody that's out there, let me just warn you. All right. The legato side of things, practicing it without any amp is a really great place to go. So my little morning routine, circling back to what we were talking about before, about the footstool, I'm in the bedroom there. I've been given permission to keep a guitar there. It lives there. Basically, most days of the week, I'll sit there for 15 or 30 minutes, and that's kind of where the idea is like, Griffin, if you're still there, tell me, if you had a preference between a 15-minute fundamentals or 30-minute fundamentals, or a 30-minute fundamentals where you had a 15-minute version that's a stripped-down version, which you would prefer and why? All right, because I'm always thinking about you as I'm running through that, because I'm basically doing every day, I'm doing the 15-minute fundamentals unless I got to come down here and work on something. That is to say that as I'm doing the extended version, it does include working on legato, and does include arpeggios, and does include inversions. I'm doing it without an amp. So there is a certain amount of my practice that happens, and this really happened. Look at you. Hang on, I'm going to add Tone X to the list. Right, I think I've found a functional way to deal with myself here. So if I make a list, I'm going to come back to that. So I am definitely going to come back to that. That bait is very good. You feel free to go off topic all you want. The question is, have you? All right. The idea is all my practice stuff, I want to be able to do it without an amp because I need to know what the guitar is telling me just acoustically. That's an important part of it. Because every amp is going to be a little bit different, right? And with that in mind, you play a little bit differently once you're plugged into the different devices. Well, Chris, I will take that. Thank you very much. So that is kind of where I'm kind of going. I think I'm going to call it 15-minute fundamentals, but I'm going to give the 30-minute version. And I just was so excited the other day because in my mind, I'm doing the 15-minute fundamentals, and I'd set an alarm for myself. And it wasn't until the alarm went off, because I wanted to time all these things, that I kind of went, you moron, you set the alarm for 30 minutes. And I was so excited because I was having so much fun, because I love to practice. And in turn, and I kind of went, okay, and that's what it is. And I think, the other thing is literally if I were to maybe say, hey, there's a 30-minute workout, but maybe you just split it in two, and kind of like the 15 minutes is the regular part of it. And then if you have the extra half an hour, you either, or, if you have the extra 15 minutes, you do the whole thing. And, for kind of intermediate players, just loop the first half. And then for more advanced players, just, alternate between the two. No, Ed lived with the guitar on, the unfortunate thing is, the internet is a bit of a curse, as is, the funny thing is that I had the privilege of sharing, a little clip from the album, and all of a sudden, I love interacting with people. I am so humbly appreciative of the fact that people are excited about this album. And so, in this moment, I am fortunate enough, and I can say that, it's kind of an ironic thing that there are not so many people that I can't respond to all of that stuff. At some point, that will potentially change. But the idea is that I love doing that, but I'm kind of like spending a lot of time on my phone. I'm getting better at replying, but the thing is that, it means that I'm not sitting here with the guitar. That's the reason in the morning with the 15-minute fundamentals, I'm not having the digital distraction. This guy stays on metronome. It doesn't go off. I don't take phone calls. I don't answer email. That's all about that time. So it is hard to create that separation, but it is an important part of this. Ooh. Awesome. Congratulations. Um, ooh. With pleasure. Conversely, here's the thing: is I've gotten older, I've gotten more rigid about some things and less rigid about others, because you kind of begin to go, man, the things that I used to hold on to that tight. For example, I'm going to button my lip on. So I didn't get a chance to do Theory Geek Thursday this week, but I've got a really cool Theory Geek Thursday. It's around one of the things that I'm teaching my students. I will say this, is that the majority of my guitar playing life, I really spent my time going scale degree numbers are where it's at. In that, if I play the G minor pentatonic, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, if I know that this, once I'm able to reduce that shape down to a formula, that's going to be consistent no matter where I play it. The challenge is if I don't know that G, B flat, and D are the 1, flat 3, and 5 of that, and I'm looking for the so if I'm looking for G's, now one of the other interesting things that you kind of watch there, and I was a total weenie on the videos, in that I'm pretty much these days trying to not look at the neck when I'm playing stuff. So I actually did pretty well. Flat. Sorry. Because I'm getting used to, and the interesting thing is this is a Fender scale instrument. I've been spending all my time on the V over there, which has a broken string and needs a string change. But I'm getting to the point where I'm kind of like, I kind of know where the notes are by touch. Okay, so this is one of the things, again, getting to the point of like what you hold on to, and then what you kind of go, well, maybe not so much. So knowing that that's a G, here's the thing, if I were thinking about that with scale degree numbers, I probably wouldn't have been able to just do that. But because I'm thinking about the G, B flat, and D, I'm able to articulate something that's really important. I am going to share a little pentatonic hack with you guys, because I want to. Brad, are you still here, buddy? Pal? All right, hang on a second. All right. The 30-day challenge. Right. Awesome. Excellent. 15s make the most sense because they're quick and easy in and out. But the occasional 30s with more content would be wholeheartedly welcome. All right. Thank you. I really appreciate that feedback. Here's the thing. I'm going to call it 15-minute fundamentals, but I'm going to say, look, by the way, there is this extra bit. That's what I'm leaning towards. On the 15-minute fundamentals, is it is focused on technique, or does it have theory baked into? Also, like the 30-minute version. Thank you. Leapfrog scale degrees. 3 numbers. Thank you. Thank you. Not enough characters in the chat. We'll send you an email. Please. Thank you. You could have 15 minutes that include the bonus content and more time is available. Zen Master status. That's hilarious. Blindfolded while walking a balance beam. So in the videos, though, because I kind of needed to have my hands in the right place, I kind of started looking down. but you know, it's an interesting thing memorizing where the feel of the neck is. Dialing that thought back. So I had a student. I remember the specific student, and I remember asking him, should I be looking at the neck when I'm practicing? Like, oh yeah. So the answer is yes, but the idea, because we play this visual instrument. Hey, what's going on, Brent? Great to see you, my friend. Shamefully, I was in Nashville for about 5 seconds, darting in and out. But the next time I go there, you and me, bar taco, buddy. I don't know what that has to do with bar taco, but there you have it. How are you doing? Trust everything is great. What a great city. We actually shot 4 videos in Alabama, so we flew into Nashville. I went by SIR, grabbed a pair of boogie cabinets and a pair of boogie heads, and then went off to Alabama. And then kind of just got back into town, just enough time. Do you know Peter Keys, keyboardist from Skinner? Peter has an amazing studio. I'll probably post a photo of me chatting in his control room, but had to kind of go over got to see his studio. And then we rushed to the airport and got out of there. Next time, hopefully, I'll have more time. In case you didn't guess it, Brent, first of all, brilliant bass player, brilliant producer, brilliant friend, and is in Nashville. I do country music. There we go. Come on. All right. So the touch thing, when we look at the guitar, and I'm as guilty of this where there are lots of pickup trucks. Yeah, they weren't going to deliver. They would have delivered them to Alabama, but yeah. All right, so I have a tendency to play relative to G major / E minor. When I look at the neck, even if I'm kind of making some little modulation. All right, let me at least tune this beast here. I remember one of my favorite guitar players saying that he felt the Ibanez Edge stayed in tune a little bit better than Floyd Rose. So when I look at the neck, I see all those notes laid out. Ironically, this little chord progression here, I played on the Strat. It's down a half step, and I found myself in C. So, I kind of been playing in what I'm down. I have to so basically in C sharp minor, which is the relative minor of E major. So I've spent enough time in E major now. Left turn, sure. When I'm playing in C sharp minor, I'm thinking about C sharp minor. That is where my ear. I'm not hearing E major. I'm not hearing D sharp Locrian. I'm hearing C sharp minor. And then it actually goes to Dorian. Sorry. Flippin' case in point. Thank you very much. One of the biggest. I'm going to go there. Am I going to go there? I'm going to go there. One of the biggest mistakes I think players can make is to exclusively tether their reality to the relative major. When I'm playing in E minor, I've spent so many years playing in E minor, I just see all those notes up and down the neck. I know its relative major is G major. I'm not thinking of it as G major. When I'm playing A Dorian, I know it's A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A. B Phrygian, I know those notes or those keys, and when I'm playing in any of those modes, I'm thinking about the tonal center being the tonal center. That is to say, the root of the harmonic expressions happening there. This particular progression changes modes, and so not only did I kind of put myself in C, which is a key that I don't spend a lot of time playing in, but it's got a mode change. And if I were thinking about when it's playing in the C minor part, or I should say, when it's in the native key C sharp minor, I'm not thinking about it being in E major. Now, I started to say I've spent enough time in E that there is a visual representation of how I see that splayed out on the neck. Harmonically, I'm thinking C sharp minor. But that doesn't mean that I can't see, because, again, if we think about the guitar, I know lowest string and highest string is E. If I can go E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, so on and so forth, I know those notes really well. So that is one of the things that I can integrate into that. But harmonically and mentally, I'm not thinking E major, I'm thinking C sharp minor. And where this is super important is this chord progression actually changes. So the first little bit, that's just basically a minor 11. So I don't know whether it's Dorian, Phrygian, or minor. So I'm generally in those instances playing minor pentatonic. Then it goes to this chord. That's going to add the natural 6. So that's where it goes to Dorian. And that's where it's going to go to... I'm looking for an A. Whereas could have had a V8. Sorry, the root of that chord is A. So let me explain what that little insanity was. Thinking about the chord progression, which I wrote over here in this other key, and then kind of what that means like when I actually kind of am trying to play it on this guitar, because all the playing I was doing was around C, but now I'm playing it around C sharp. Sorry. So the deal is when it goes to this A chord right there, that right there, it becomes the flat 6. That guy right there, that little chord, that F sharp, A, C sharp, that makes it C sharp Dorian, and that A sus2, or A, let's call it an A sus2, is where it goes to C sharp minor, and I kind of stay there until it goes back to the first chord. So everything that's happening there is saying C sharp, C sharp, C sharp, C sharp. So if I take these left-hand turns, which I do a little too well, and I start thinking about the relative major, I'm totally sunk when that mode change comes. I'm toast. And there's enough instances in that progression, I wasn't planning on having it change modes. I just kind of went... I really have to be thinking about, hey, at C sharp, thinking about 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1. I'm adding that. That's my flat 7, natural 6. And the idea is if I can see my flat 7 to my 6 there, I kind of walk down. Important footnote, totally random, super important. Generally, if you're playing in a minor type mode, as in Dorian, Phrygian, or minor, and you think about, again, we're kind of hanging out at C sharp here. If I were to play the C sharp minor pentatonic scale, and this is actually super important, if I were to take that and impregnate that with the notes of the mode from the top, because if you think about how we initially start adding modal notes to our playing, most of us, it started off, we were playing the pentatonic. And we started adding notes into this little box here. There. But how does that intersect with the 3-note per string modes? Well, if I'm playing Dorian, I don't know why I'm leaning as I do that, but the point being is I'm actually playing out of, in this case, B major. The fingering. And the deal is what happens is when you get to the top 2 strings of that B major, that is to say if you're playing in Dorian, Phrygian, or minor, you take the 3-note per string mode that's downhill by a whole step. So if you're in Dorian, you'll play major down a whole step. If you're in Phrygian, you play Dorian down a whole step. If you're in minor, you play mixed Lydian down a whole step. And what ends up happening for Dorian in this case, if I play major down a whole step, when I get up to the top 2 strings, it fills in the natural 6 and the natural 2 that distinguish the minor pentatonic from the Dorian. Then when this mode change comes, it goes to the flat 6. So instead of playing, again, we're in C sharp minor, so that's going to go to B mixed Lydian. And that will automatically fill my flat 6 and my natural 2 versus my natural 6 and my natural 2. But the other thing that begins to happen is you kind of get this convenient about this. As you're walking down that guy, I'm getting where the 6, flat 7, 2, and flat 3 are right there. They're right there. So you can kind of, and if you're going to go to the flat 6, what's nice about that is it kind of allows you to kind of, if you can get it right here, and you go, oh, I'm in the upper part of major, but I'm actually thinking of that as my natural 6, flat 7, 1, 2, and flat 3. So I'm really thinking about that being my tonal center. So I know I'm using the fingering of B major, but I'm really thinking of it as C sharp Dorian. So that is to say I could play it, and instead of ending at the B, end at the C sharp there. So all I did was end on the second note of B major. But when it goes to this guy, and on the second note of B mixed Lydian, and that's going to give us C sharp minor. That hack is huge because, again, for those of us, if we think about the history of where we came from, we started off with the pentatonic, and one day we kind of went, you know, I don't know what key Europa is in, but the point being is that's one of the first places I started going, you know, there's other notes there. I don't know what they are. I don't know where they come from, but they exist, and I like them. But I didn't have any way of understanding kind of how to approach them, and that was a big deal for me. Leslie West. Oh. All right, hang on. I got to scroll a little bit. All right, there we go. Awesome. Thanks, Rick. Awesome. You know, the funny thing is that I love this amp. This amp is it's home. I've learned a lot about. I found myself on these amps. And this guitar in particular, it's a funny story. Um, I don't remember why I started looking for one of these. It is part of the Gibson family now, and that must have maybe had something to do with it. But there was this little YouTube demo that the guy that was selling this did, and I went like, I could tell instantly. When a piece of gear is that good. Sorry, it wasn't just a YouTube video. It was a video that they did on their iPhone. I went, you can just tell. And so I was like, wow, it's a great guitar. It's a little difficult to play. The action is set, what I would describe as medium high. Legato. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Joe Satriani, his action is extremely low. He plays with a very light touch and is brilliant. And he has enough range of volume with the right hand that he can go from very intimate to very, very loud with his thing. I have a much heavier touch, and he has chastised me for that upon occasion, and justifiably so. So I've kind of learned to lighten things up. Because every so often I just play too heavy, and I have to remind myself, again that. Because I like. Kind of like that. That's kind of where I would live the most. Somebody mentioned Eddie. Eddie just kind of lived in a place that he'd had things, but the center of the Eddie Road is him. He just had an intensity about his playing. That's what people related to so much. I like the intense side of it, even if I'm. So that little bit of, as you pointed out, snap or whatever it was you said on the top end is really that bite. All right, tone tip, and I'm moving on. Presence is a control that I generally, when I'm in the room on my own, I will back it off lower than where it generally sounds best with a band playing. Try that the next time you're playing with a band. All right, Leslie West was amazing. Oh, way to go, dude. Joe plays smoother than Rob Thomas and Carlos Santana at a water park. That's hilarious. True that. Jim Wagner, what's going on, my man? Always a pleasure to see you, my friend. Always a pleasure. Miguel, what you got? What kind of pickups does the Kramer have? So this guitar, when I heard it, it had the stock Kramer pickups. Those are actually, and the other part of it is Joe Satriani had a guitar very, very similar to this, but it didn't have, there's the hockey stick, there's the beak, and then there's a kind of, they had a Strat headstock. I don't think Joe's had the Strat headstock. I've got a Kramer over there that does have a Strat headstock on it. But his had Schaller pickups in it, so that would have been what originally came here. By the time I got this, it had a Duncan and a Carvin, which sounded really good. But this is a DiMarzio PAF Joe, which is the greatest neck pickup, humbucking. Wide aperture humbucking pick. But okay, sorry, we're going to go there. Another left turn, an important one. There's let's see if I can do this. There is a group of folks that have they're called Killer Guitar Rigs, and they're putting out some really, really good content. One of the things that they did was a little course on setups and whatnot. They're doing a really good job, and I'm watching what they're doing. They're hitting my inbox with just the right amount of regularity pretty much every day, or every other day, but not too much. But they've got a course, and one of the things they errantly say, I am calling them out on this, but 99% of what they're doing is really good. Is great, actually, and I'm kind of watching what they're doing because they're doing a bunch of things that I'm in the process of building, and they're doing it on a platform called Kajabi. They're doing a bunch of really smart stuff. But what they're doing is they're getting everybody back to their website. They're really smart. But they talked about separating single coil and humbucking pickups into narrow aperture and wide aperture. They didn't refer to them that, and they kind of errantly, although I know that they know better, you got to be really careful when you're presenting information like they're this, they're that, they're that. It actually wasn't them. They've got a guy that's doing a course that really knows his stuff. I bought it because I want to see what the other people are doing in the space. And I'm always open to learning stuff and getting inspired. But in terms of pickups, there's wide aperture. That is to say, it's hearing the string from more than just one location. That's why a humbucking pickup, hum canceling aside, sounds the way that it does. Again, the difference between where the pickup is underneath the string makes a huge difference in terms of not just the harmonic content, but the sum of the fundamental and all the harmonic nature, which is why a bridge pickup and a neck pickup sound different. It's a big deal when you're down here. Narrow aperture, wide aperture. So wide aperture humbuckers are kind of what you're used to seeing in a Les Paul. Narrow aperture single coil pickups are what you're used to seeing in a Strat. However, you can have narrow aperture humbucking pickups. So just because it's narrow aperture does not mean that it's not humbucking. And that terminology, I know they got it wrong inadvertently, but this is where you got to be really careful when you state stuff as fact. You got to go, hey, here's all this stuff. And I'm not going to mention the name of the guy that I'm working on this rigs course with, but I've put together the most insane down to the nuts and every little part on the guitar definition from, the stern, whatever the other part of the boat is. But the point being, it's kind of like literally going through the entire instrument, pretty much every part, kind of going, okay, well, what all is involved in this, so you understand. If you don't know about wood, or you don't know about tremolo style, or you don't know about pickup style, so that you can kind of begin to kind of quantify the different instruments and really kind of go, these are all the different, if you will, what I call parallel verticals that collectively you put them together and you get a guitar. So the PAF Joe is the best wide aperture humbucking pickup I know. It's flippin'. It just sounds great, and this is the 36th anniversary PAF. Just just sounds great. So yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I just have lots of caffeine. That is a great idea for a t-shirt. Caffeine makes me smarter. Gosh darn it. So the funny thing is, Melissa hears all my wacky ideas, and at some point, once we kind of actually roll out the marketing machine, so we can subsidize all the crazy stuff that we're doing, we're going to start pulling out some limited edition t-shirts, and it's going to be really fun. So caffeine makes me smarter. I love that. All right. Stem to stern. Thank you. I thought it was stem to stern, but I'm like, stem. The heck is a stem? We're not going to go there. Rounder. There we go. The PAF Joe is flipping fantastic. It's, in other words, it's just a great pickup. And it just really, why does F minor pentatonic, B flat minor pentatonic, and C minor pentatonic work together? Okay. We're going to talk about the interesting intersection in a different way of 1, 4, and 5. So if you were to take a look at the relationship of the major scale and think about its first, fourth, and fifth tones, you kind of have this little shape here, right? And if you were to kind of go, okay, well, doesn't the Dorian mode have a 1, 4, and a 5, and the Phrygian mode a 1, 4, and a 5, and a Lydian 1, sharp 4, 5, and mixed Lydian 1, 4, 5, and minor 1, 4, 5, and low grade 1, 4, flat 5, and 1, 4, 5. So if you think about kind of the relationship between the 1, 4, and 5 of different modes, if you were to think about the 1, 4, and 5 of the minor scale, you're going to end up with what is essentially the 6, 2, and 3. And if you were to take the notes of the minor pentatonic started off the 6, and the notes of the minor pentatonic started off the 2, and the notes of the minor pentatonic started off the 3, and you decided to start them all off of the E note, you would end up with the notes of E minor. It's a great discovery you've gotten there. So let's just let's take it relative to G major. Again, we were in E minor, but let's just talk about G major. The notes of G major are G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. If I started the G major scale off of its second note, I'd end up with A Dorian, which is A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, G, F sharp, E, D, C, B, A, G, F sharp, E, D, C, B, A. And if I were to play that, just taking the first, third, fourth, fifth, and flat 7, that's the A minor pentatonic. If I took B Phrygian and only played its first, third, fourth, fifth, and 7th notes, you end up with B minor pentatonic. If I took the E minor scale, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, and took its first, third, fourth, fifth, and 7th notes, which is a 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, you'd end up with E, G, A, B, D, which is E minor pentatonic. So collectively, if I took A minor pentatonic, B minor pentatonic, and E minor pentatonic and put them together, well, I already know the answer, but basically we would end up with A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. And then if we took our B minor pentatonic, we end up, no, my bad. A, C, D, E, G. A, C, D, E, G. And then our B minor pentatonic is B, D, F sharp, A. So let me see if we're there already. I think we probably are. So that's going to give us an A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. Yeah. So by the time you combine the A minor pentatonic and the B minor pentatonic, you're going to end up with the notes of the A Dorian mode or the B Phrygian mode. So they share the same notes. So as it turns out, just to make sure I'm not leaving anybody behind, the minor pentatonic scale, it's this shape, right? If we were to compare that to the major scale, it's a 1 instead of having a 3. It goes to the flat 3, doesn't have a 2. 1, flat 3, 4, 5. And instead of having a 7, has a flat 7. Leaves out the 6, so it's this. That's a 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1. So it leaves out the 2 and the 6, and that happens for the Dorian. You can lay it over the Dorian mode. You can play it over the Phrygian mode, and you can play it over the minor scale. But if you did something like where I'm overlaying different minor pentatonics, that is, say I'm playing A minor pentatonic with the left hand and E minor pentatonic. Instead of going oh, come on. Slowly. What I'm doing there is I'm playing A minor pentatonic with the left hand. And I'm playing pattern number 4 with the right hand. Oh, we gotta play pattern number with the left hand. So the idea is they're really similar. The only difference between what you're doing with the left hand and the right hand is when you get up to this note right here and this note right here, they're different. That is, say, the pentatonic shape goes. So basically, instead of playing the 5, that's not how I want to think of it. We're just playing the A minor pentatonic start off of a C note. So it means we're going E, G, A, C, D, E, G, A, C, D, E, G. At the same time, we're going A, C, D, E, G, A, C, D, E, G, A, C. And collectively, you end up with this really cool modal sound. Steve, not right. He was an autograph. Steve Lynch. He did a book on that, and he talked about overlaying different pentatonic patterns to create modal sounds. That was kind of his shtick, and he did it really, really well. Because that was his shtick and did it really well, I spent a lot of time not doing the overlaying of different pentatonics. I'd say if I were to take, that's laying E minor pentatonic over A minor pentatonic. But versus playing different patterns of the pentatonic. Oh, come on, G. This is where the notes really become helpful. I'm intending to play E, A, D, G, C, and E. Gets me back to my point earlier. One of the things I talked about was I spent a lot of years thinking about the scale degree numbers. But when you begin to articulate things like you saw me do with, I think I was in G, G, B flat, D, you can think about the note names and it'll allow you to get yourself out of a mess where seeing the shape sometimes doesn't kind of give you what you need to know. It's going, oh, right, I need to just be going E, A, D, G, C, E, because I know the notes of the A minor pentatonic are A, C, D, E, G, A. So then I just kind of articulate that into this location on the neck instead of doing something stupid like playing a G flat. I'm just like, or I'm not playing an A flat, but the point being is it allows us to also, if you play a wrong note, go, oh, I played a this instead of a that. And while the scale degree numbers are helpful for doing that, I find that as you begin to try and make sense of things that we kind of make a left turn or a right turn, the scale degree numbers are a huge help, but the note names, I grossly underestimated how helpful that was going to be towards really mastering. I don't know if I were to say, I guess in my own way, I have mastered the instrument, I guess. So in terms of my goal of mastering the instrument, this is a huge part because it allows me to kind of go, got it. And the thing is that in the do you need to know the note name part of it, so much of the guitar is about playing shapes that the answer initially is no. But if you're looking to master the instrument so you have an understanding that somebody's read music their entire life, that same sort of mastery they have of music, and in turn being able to, I created this, my students and we have this crazy thing that I call the Doppler dictionary, because I come up with these terms that I think allow us to have language around things that otherwise we wouldn't. So guitar contextualization is the idea is how do we take something that maybe has its place initially on the keyboard and contextualize it with the guitar. We don't normally think about the white keys on the piano, 2 holes and a half, 3 holes and a half, that they've got a black key in between because we don't have the black keys. We just got frets. But if you can kind of go, oh, I see, that's where I would have had a black key. That's where I would have had a black key. No black key in between E and F. Black key in between F and G. Black key in between G and A. We can contextualize something that came from the piano that's pretty much the basis of 99% of the music we play and contextualize it to the guitar. So we're going, how do we make that fit here even though we don't have black keys? It's a really important process for us being able to kind of go, there's all this, for example, as Peter Keys and I are working on stuff, he basically lives in Nashville numbers type of world. And say, oh, play the flat 6 over that. So we'll talk about, or say flat 6 major. I know exactly what he means. So he's saying if I'm in C, I go to the flat 6 and play a major. Now I might normally think of that, depending on what's happening harmonically, I might think of that as a 4 chord. But the thing is, because I have the ability to take his worlds and contextualize that into my world, it means that when he says stuff, I know what he's saying and I know how to apply it back to the guitar. And that's a big deal. All right, hang on a second. There's something going on here. Rick, you're too kind. All right, Miguel. I got Joe. Oh, awesome. There we go. Come on. Uh, yes, 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 and yes. That's awesome. Yes. So, 36th anniversary PAF he has become my favorite and go-to pickup. I used to be a Tone Zone guy. It's a little hotter pickup, and for what I'm doing these days, as Rick pointed out, maybe I'm not using quite as much drive. Um, yeah, Nuno knows a thing or two. Uh, so interestingly enough, I'm going to say, first of all, Albert and I are Mesa Boogie fanatics, so I can say this. So the interesting thing that happened at this video shoot that kind of blew my mind um, is I'm surrounded by just about every famous boogie release that you could want. There is not a full blown Mark V here, and there's not a full blown Mark IV. But everything else from Mark One, Mark Two C plus, Mark Two Bs, and a couple of prune boogies that are on loan from my buddy, and then pretty much everything, all the Petrucci and a Rev G dual rectifier. So what ended up happening was, for my particular sound, I kind of found that on this video shoot, I can plug into just about any boogie, and I'm like, I got there really quickly, which is kind of crazy. Um, the good folks at Mesa Boogie were kind enough to arrange for SIR to backline uh, a pair of tall rectifier cabinets, which flip and sound great. I normally have I should say, tall straight cabinets versus the angled ones, which is kind of what I own, and they're meatier and they're really a fun play, especially in a band situation. You notice that I like having the angled front so you can hear it, on a slightly more shallow stage. But and then one of the heads was a Mark V, and the other was a 3-channel dual rectifier. And literally just kind of went. And my thing these days is most of the time playing through 2 amps at the same time, because I like that. Or playing through 1 amp into a power amp where I get some separation left and right. And generally, again, Brett, as into a pair of cabinets, right? And as Albert, you experienced a little club, but pair of cabinets is just how I like to go. It also means a while ago I was at a guitar show, although it was nowhere near capacity, but I played at the Honda Center in Anaheim, and that's probably a 4,000 seat auditorium. And I got a chance to just kind of go, how is this sound going to translate? And it worked really well. So whether it's at a small venue or a large venue, one of the things that I had to learn was, how do I make my sound translate? Now, the interesting thing about the amps that I got was that I haven't spent a lot of time with the Mark V, and my dual rec is not a 3-channel dual rec, but I literally kind of went back to each amp, went turned them both on, and like I had my sound in like 3 minutes, and I was like, flippin' A. And then we went in and did this other song where there was a different 3-channel dual rec in the other room. It was already set up, and I just plugged it in and went, clean channel, okay. A foot switch there, okay, great. So then playing through 1 amp. And then we took the pair of dual recs, the dual rec and the Mark V pair out to the first of the 2 shoots we did at my buddy Brian's place. And then the second one, I used this as the cabinets just for decoration, and then use he has a pair of Lone Stars. So I was like, let me just use those. I liked the way that they looked, and it was just like, it was just kind of what I want to do. And so I just, used my AB box and just kind of went, I had my sound, even though you're not actually hearing the sound of the amps, we were playing as a band, along with the track. That's, so, and that's kind of how it went, like, well, these guys sound amazing. And I was like, gosh, I can get my sound on any of these. So, not being grossly disagreeable, but I kind of went, and part of it is that I'm not playing with as much high gain as I used to, so I can get the dual recs. Somebody on for the little clip I posted said that I look like Dave Meniketti, which is kind of interesting. Dave is a fellow Bay Area guitar player. He's been doing it longer than I have, and I was on tour doing a clinic tour in Italy, in Modena, which is where they make the Ferraris. And in the evening, Y&T was playing a show, so we went over and saw them, and after the show said hello to him. And Steph Burns was playing the band at the time, but Dave was playing through a dual rec and had the most amazing lead tone, classic rock lead tone. I was like, I didn't know they did that. So like, kind of in the back of my mind, I kind of went, as much as you're thinking of Limp Bizkit, who I, by the way, love, even Fred Durst. Sorry, just saying. Normally when we think of dual rec, we think of that, but the dual rec is a great lead sound. So this is these are rectifiers, but they're not dual rectifiers. The other thing that was really interesting is because we were playing in rooms that were reasonably big, I didn't plug in a delay, and I didn't need a boost for any of the solos. I'm like, how is that possible? I was just kind of like, I couldn't believe how quickly I got set up, had my sound, didn't have to step on anything for the solos. I was like, this is strange. In any case, that was very interesting. All right, hang on a second here. Oh, interesting. Cool. Um, that's funny. So, that's funny. Look at that photo. That's killer. All right. Um, Now, I made some notes here. Tonex. Sonia, if you're still here. I, thankfully, this week was introduced to my new contact at Tonex. And so, or at IK. So, my guess is there'll be some of that stuff showing up here soon. It's going to be very interesting because one of the things I'm going to ask them about, it's like, kind of curious how you guys feel about sticking a Tonex in the loop of a fractal. In my case, my main one is the Axe FX3, but I've had it in the back of my mind for quite some time. What a great way to have a little tiny footprint sitting in your rack that you have then any amp that you want to capture in there. The other thing is that's one of the things about the Nano Cortex. Same thing. But the other thing is that you also happen to get all of Joe Satriani's amps that he put into the IK library. So I'm really excited about that. And so that, yes, so IK, Tonex, soon. It also is going to, one of the things that is probably, in 2025, sooner than later, I'm going to be far enough along on the recording project, and I'm starting to shoot video here again, that the content creation, like, stuff's actually going to start coming out. Go figure. And one of the things that's on the menu is various captures for the different platforms. So that's a big deal to me. So that's one of the platforms that is going to, there's a crazy collection of gear here. And it's not just the gear. It's kind of like, hey, this is where I would set it. So more or less people, if they want, they have access to the way I would set it, and which is, I think, a big deal. He's something. So that's a great question again about the different pentatonics. So thank you for that. All right, there we go. Yeah, no, that's that. There you go. Yep. So, oh well. Yeah. Okay. Now, recording. One of the other things that I'm actually thinking about doing, that's really important to some of the plans that I've got for 2025, is I'm going to start doing some streaming master classes. These are things that people are going to pay to do. But one of the ones that's pretty high on the list is a recording masterclass, because there's so many little nuances to that. But the idea of recommended, gear, at this point, I know pretty much all the manufacturers, with a few exceptions. I don't know the Neve people, but I kind of know all these different people. That is, say, the Universal Audio people, the Focusrite people, and the idea of kind of the architecture of the gear. Interestingly enough, the speakers that I've fallen in love with are PreSonus, and they came in for a gear review, and I expect them like, meh, PreSonus, whatever. And I plugged them in. I'm like, these sound amazing for guitar. I've got a buddy that's my gear lending buddy in Boogie World and Marshall World, and he came over and he was like, those speakers sound amazing. They are great for guitar because your guitar just sounds like your guitar, which is a help when recording and mixing guitar. And I have a relationship. They are now owned by Fender, and I happen to know the guy that kind of is the product manager for them. He came over from Line 6, and he was somebody I knew there. The funny thing is that so, gosh, am I going to get myself into trouble here? I'll give you the easy answer on that. In the cubby of my my guitar case for my Flying V, there we go. Are my picks. I've been using Dunlop 1mm Tortex for 40 years, right? Literally 40 years. I do have other picks that for example, if I've got a sound where I'm like, I need a little less transient attack, I'll use something like, it's a Daisy Rock. It's some sort of light pick, because you want to capture the right transient, especially if the microphone's like right up on the speaker there. But for the most part, yes, I've been so impressed. Good morning, Jay. Been super impressed with the PreSonus. So they now have one that's what they call a coaxial speaker. So they've got this other guy sticking out the front of it. Looks like some sort of like thing from a Star Wars movie. But they sound great, and so I've just been super impressed. They're, in the world of monitors, are about $600 for a pair, which is dirt cheap, considering. But they are phenomenal. So kind of walking through, these are some suggested pieces of gear. And this is how I do my workflow. So, for example, if any of you spend any time double tracking, one of the things that because I'm spending so much time recording guitars, I'm almost always double tracking guitars. Sometimes I'll have both amps up at the same time. Sometimes I won't. And what I will do is, if I just happen to be working with one guitar and I need to throw down a double tracking thing like I was doing yesterday, I will pan the guitar off to the right, record it to one channel. Then once I've got that done, I'll pan that channel off to the left and keep this one that's panned off to the right up and running. And that way, as I'm kind of going through tracking, it starts off panned, so I don't have to make a change once I'm in the recording process. I then will take that recorded track and pan it in the opposite direction. And as I'm matching with the double tracking, it's already panned off to the right, and the other one's playing off on the left. And then I just kind of go through and then track the next one in succession. And then in turn, once that's tracked, then I pan that to the right. And now I've got my left and right. But it's a really, really good workflow. Why do I pan it to the right? I find this is a very funny thing that I've discovered, is if there's something that I want to jump out in the mix, I find I'll pan it. That is to say, if I want to not have it in the center, I find that I notice it more consciously if it's panned to the left. And I think it's because we read from left to right. At least most of us do, right? And when I want it to be a little more subliminal, I pan it off to the right. So what it enables me to do is pay attention to the drums and have the left side of the mix open as I've got this guitar and I'm trying to pay attention to this while I'm bringing that in, which is kind of a crazy thing, but it's part of the quirky things that we do to kind of make it such that we can get a functional track as quickly as is possible. Also kind of using Easy Drummer and Superior Drummer and Yurt Rock, and then just kind of the process and some of the things that I do, I have fallen in love with, for example, on the stereo bus, or the master fader inside Pro Tools, the G bus compressor from SSL that's in the Universal Audio world. I basically put that on as soon as I start needing to get anything resembling a mix. And it's that right amount of glue without dramatically altering the transients. That is to say that the pick attack. That is to say, if you recorded some guitar and you'd see this little jump in the wave, that top of the wave is called a transient. And for the same reason that I was talking about using a softer pick. So there are times. Now, I don't have my volume all the way up, so it'll be extra pokey. That is to say, if I turn my volume all the way up and bring it down, I would normally pick soft, or, but as I bring the volume up, you bring in more of the drive of the amp because you're giving the full signal to the amplifier versus starving it. But the great thing about a great amp, not that every amp that's great has to do this, but the ability to have those gradations. You have all those layers, right? And it's really is an important place for me to be able to live, so I don't feel like I'm playing at one level. Thank you, Greg. How's your guitar? I love that photo, by the way. Greg's building a very special guitar, getting ready to send it down to my buddy Gary Brower. Very, 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 very cool. All right. Awesome. And the other thing is, I have Joe basically uses a pick that last time I checked was just a little bit on the heavier. There we go. Thank you. Hang on. Let's see. You know what? Oh wait. There we go. Copy text. Thank you. Hold on a second. Thank you for that, Paul. Oh, that's really reasonably priced. So. Yeah, $2.99 a piece. Now, this is one of the great mysteries of the flippin' universe. Wait a second. How is it that Sweetwater didn't come up first? So the ones that I'm using are the... so I wonder if the regular Eris E8 is still available. Hang on a second. Okay, hang on. Give me just a quick moment. So the Eris E8... is what I used to use, and now I use the E8 Pro, I believe. E8. Let's take a look. There we go. Okay, good. They still do make the Eris E8. No, wait, hold on. Wait. Scroll. Yeah, they do still make the Eris. Hang on a second. Oh, there we go. Give me a moment here. There it is. Okay. Yeah, the Eris the Eris Pro 8, PreSonus Eris Pro 8. They're $2.99 a pop. And then wow. Okay, hang on. Okay, so they are still making. Oh, that's really interesting. Okay, that's actually really cool. So most of the time when you buy a monitor, they list the price for one. I have no idea why they do that, but a number of these are listed in pairs. So the Aris Studio 8, which used to be the Aris E8, they're $399 for a pair. And the ones that I use are again $600 for a pair. But they're great. Oh, hang on. Let's see. I should be able to do this. And by the way, any link that I'm posting right here is not going to... Oh. That... I need to talk to the people about it. I can't post that there. Okay, hang on. Hang on a second. I can do this. All right, hello. Oh, well, thank you, Paul. There's that. And then here's the other one. You know what? That's going to work. Okay, there we go. But that needs to get over to YouTube. There we go. Good. All right. So that link is over there. Those are not... those are not sponsored links. So, but the point being... there we go. Oh, right. So, sorry. I can't click on that in where I'm viewing this, Paul. So I just double posted that. But thank you. So I just love these speakers. They sound great, and it is important. I do not know what brand picks Joe uses, but they're just kind of your traditional Fender-y kind of whatever. Yeah. And Steve uses, what the last time I saw them, an extra heavy pick as well, which I thought was very interesting. All right. Let me make sure I've got all my stuff there. Legato and sweeping. Okay. It is 11:29, and I'm about to, I normally have an 11:30 lesson, which I don't today, but I do need to prepare for a day of teaching and want to take a moment to kind of gather my thoughts for all of that. This has been really fun. I don't know if I've had as much fun on one of these maybe ever, because we zigged and we zagged, but you know, at the same time, I think that was awful. I do want to leave with an exercise for you for your legato. We talked about going up and down the high E string, but I didn't get to this one. Mike Rand, are you still here, my friend? Thank you, Chris. Much appreciated. Mike Rand, are you still here? Thank you. All right. Yeah, have a nice walk. Awesome, awesome. With great pleasure, Ron. Really appreciate it. Brad, always a pleasure. Okay. All right. So Mike was... Oh, there we go. Hey, all right. This is specifically for you and everybody else. All right. So the deal is, if you're looking for the ultimate, you asked for it legato exercise, I got you. You can do this for all the 3 upper string modes up and down the neck. Thanks so much, Dr. Phil. Likewise, I'm sure. Griffin, pleasure is mine, my friend. Thank you so much. Griffin says hello, Mel. I can hear her leaving the house. All right. So the deal is, you could do this for all the 3 upper string modes up and down the neck. You can also do it. Thanks so much, Steve. You know, I think the thing that's so much fun about this, thank you very much, Brett, is I love the sense of discovery about guitar, and we kind of all share that, like, ooh, you know, what's the next thing? So the deal is with this legato thing, again, the curl and arch to that last joint of your fingertips is really important. Let me get over to here. So that is to say, this little bit right there versus the flat part. That's going to get you into trouble with unwanted hammer-ons like that. So that curl and arch also is really important, because that is where you get the pluckiness of this guy. All right, now this little bit of madness here. What we're going to do is basically it's the add a string and take a string away. Basically, we're going to go up and down the 6th, then add the 5th, add the 4th, add the 3rd, add the 2nd, add the 1st. Now, I call this little piece here a shunt. So that is literally just kind of, if you will, half a sequence playing from the low E string to the high E string. And then we start doing the takeaway part. So we go. And then we add it back in. Then we do a shunt in the other direction. No, sorry, I need to go all the way back up. All right, so that is to say, we're at, we've expanded from. Now what we do is we do a shunt this way. And now we go. So, in slow motion, you're basically adding a string until you get to all 6 strings. Up and back down. Then we just go up. Now we start from the top and we go 1st through 6th through 1st, and then we start taking them away. All right. Then we start adding them back. Sorry. Then we do a shunt. And then we start taking them away. That will give you a bit of a workout. But what's neat about that is it's a really neat exercise to just, first of all, you get used to, let's just say you're wanting to build your legato in ranges. So on and so forth. But this allows you to kind of, take where we're kind of doing that laterally and do it linearly. So collectively, that'll give you a nice workout. Instead of worrying about speed, also, another really important part about this. All right, yeah, Mike, you got you asked for it. Thanks so much. I didn't forget about you. Another really important part about this is the positioning, not only of the arch of the fingertips, but the extension. So one of the things is I'm at the upper edge of the fret, because when you're in the middle of the fret, it's easy to push into the fret and make the string go sharp. The other thing is that I'm using the concept of 1 finger per fret, and the first finger moves out of position independently. Now, this is one of the things that pentatonic players get themselves into trouble with when they start playing these shapes, is that they will quite often, especially when, if you're playing the 2nd finger root modes, to get to that note, they'll twist their hand to get to that versus extending that first finger independently. Way to cure that. And basically, I'm at, if I put my 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th fingers down at the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th frets, and just extended the first finger between the 4th and 3rd fret, and just kind of going, in this case, I'm basically going G sharp, A, B, and then G, A, B. That'll just help you. Oh, that's fun. We're going. Same concept, but basically G sharp, A, B, B, A, G sharp. And then without missing the beat, we go G, A, B. So you got a G and a G sharp and a G. Back to back. But the idea is that we're just getting used to extending that first finger independently. This is where having the thumb in the middle back of the neck and then bringing it with the hand there is really, really important. And it just gives you the extension you need to do this. The other thing is this. The arch of the fingertips is not only like this, but the fingers are actually facing up the neck. And this is doing a really important thing. The pinky is the shortest finger. So the reason I use the pencil like this is it really allows you to, as you're doing this, kind of compensate for the fact that the pinky is shorter. So we are curling and arching these guys and getting them in a straight line. The reason the pencil is such a help is that's akin to what happens when you end up on the neck there like that. And so we're compensating for the fact that the pinky is shorter. We want to be facing up the neck with these fingers because that's going to help the most with, first of all, not pulling the string out of tune or pulling it towards the next string. And that's going to allow us to pluck with that pinky. And that is a big deal because, again, that allows us to use the curl and arch of these fingers to compensate for this one. And it's just going to make a world of difference. Thanks, Rick. You know, I could have played it a little bit better, in all honesty, but the thing is that what was neat about this, and again, kind of akin to the 15-minute fundamentals, this morning I came down, all the things I was working on yesterday had nothing to do with legato. And at this point, I have enough different things in my vocabulary. There's a difference between legato practice. Let me do that again. Let me do that again real quick. Hang on a second. So the transitions, and actually I'm going to speak to this, so we're going to go a little bit longer here because I can. The transitions are an important part of making this smooth. So the deal is, one of the reasons just going on one string, or when you get to that will give you a bit of work. And when I got to about there on the way back down, I found myself starting to tense up a little bit, and that's where you gotta go. Just relax, and it's just a matter of loosening that up as you're doing this. You know, so yeah, Brad. So the interesting thing is, great point there. This spot. The top of the neck is in, depending on the instrument, and on this guitar, The action is just a little bit higher at the top of the neck. There are a number of things that are great about this guitar, and there's some things that are good about this guitar. I think this guitar is better than it was intended to be. That is to say, if you went and played 10 guitars of the same model, and you picked the one that was kind of right in the middle of, there were the best ones and there were the worst ones, the one that was right in the middle, that kind of tells you kind of where, in theory, where they were aiming. They may all be very consistent or they may have a range. But the thing about this guitar is there's some stuff, this guitar could have slightly better, there you go, doesn't have a tremendous amount of sustain up at the top of the neck. And because the action, I could probably lower it just a little bit, and on this guitar you would do it by just bringing these two studs closer to the body, just bring them down a little bit. But the other thing is that the higher action makes it, first of all, does make it so you can get your fingertip in a little bit under the, that's the end where the arch becomes a help, because well, the thing is, this guy's been over to Gary Brower's a couple of times. The other thing is it's been a minute since I changed strings on this, so the Floyd will move a little bit. But yes, it definitely depends on who set it up. But the thing is that the action, that is not the area where this guitar sounds best. I think it's best by that spot on the neck on this guitar. This spot is good. But could be a little better. There's something a little funky happening right there. Might be a high fret or something, but the action's high enough that that spot, which is really important to me, in any case, that area of the neck is hard to play on this guitar. The action's high. And I don't know, admittedly, I'm a little under practice on this. And the idea is, first of all, where you get good playing this fast is here. Totally counterproductive. Sorry, counterintuitive. And just learning to kind of take a nice slow, I don't know, Zen-like approach, because that way you're relaxed. And the most important thing about the 15-minute fundamentals, of which this is going to be part of the 30-minute version, is the legato part where you're like, hey. And as I recall the version that I put together for this, you don't need to see me run through it, although that to me is like one of the greatest joys ever. I love practicing. So that guy, as opposed to Eighth note triplets. You got to watch out for what I did there a little bit. Versus. Somebody asked about the theory behind this with the whole thing about the 15-minute fundamentals. And yes, it's going to have that as well, because if you don't know what it is, you don't know what it is. I think it might have been you, Griffin, if you're still here. But the idea of being able to kind of go, okay, what are we doing? We're taking the notes of the G major scale, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, and we're starting that off of each successive note. So if this is going G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, starting at G, ending at C, I guess the next one starts at A and ends at D. And the next one at B. Sorry. And ending at E. And F sharp. But the although speed and articulation at high speed may be the goal, admittedly so, getting there is really there's also one thing that I've noticed. I've been collapsing that last joint in my third finger a little bit, and that's bad technique. I would say that's bad technique. And it's just a matter of allowing that arch to collapse under pressure. It's a matter of just getting a little bit more articulation. But it's an incredibly satisfying feeling, especially with little palm mid, to do that. Right? Yeah, that's why Eddie had the guitar on all day, because he was the guy. Yeah. Okay. So, oh wow. Ooh. There you go. Oh, there we go. Come on, you and Billy Gibbons. Come on. There we go. And just, the idea of sometimes just sitting down and doing it, it's just a matter of, it's a habit, I don't know, like brushing your teeth. There are days that, believe it or not, I forget to brush my teeth in the morning. I come down here, I'm like, ooh. The same thing happens with our playing. There'll be certain things we go to do, and I'm like, oh man, that's because I didn't practice that. And that's kind of the heart and soul of this 15-minute fundamentals, is that it's stuff that if we just at least just get it underneath our fingertips. So I think it's going to be 15-minute fundamentals with a 30-minute bit for those that have more time on longer workouts. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what a pleasure. That was fun. What I love about this is that it gets me thinking about things. And, Mike, if it weren't for you, thank you. Like this whole little morning that I kind of had, just getting a chance to sit down with this little progression. And so guess what? After spending, and that's what I would call play practice, is it meant, oh, okay, I've got that rhythm going, which again gets us to the point of like, there is the part of just the practice, but it's also important to spend time playing. All right, Chris, thank you very much. Awesome. Okie dokie, let's see here. Man, legato exercise with coffee in the morning is sure a fine way to get you fired up. All right, Albert, Pleasure, my friend. Everybody, all of you, love you dearly. Just wish you a great weekend. What a cool start for all of us, hopefully. And this was a lot of fun today. So thanks for that. And I'll see you next Saturday. I will have a Theory Geek Thursday this week. So, in any case, God bless each one of you. And thank you so much for the privilege of being able to do this. This is so much fun. So much fun. So, hey, there we go. Thanks, Brett. Appreciate all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The privilege is mine. This is, I could be like, what, lying in bed watching TV? Although at this point I would have a guitar and I'd be sitting down here. It's whoever it was that said that Eddie kind of wandered around with the guitar in his hands the whole time. Thank you. And I would encourage you to kind of go, what does your version of that look like, right? And I will challenge you. This little device, well, she's my friend, but this device is your enemy. This is the enemy of practice unless you're using the metronome. Then it is your best friend. But the digital distraction, this thing, I was very thrilled to see all the positive response to the clip that I put up of me playing the intro from Linger. But, I also kind of went, wow, the more socially engaged I am, which is super important to everything that I'm doing, the less time I'm spending with the instrument. I'm like, it's a very interesting trade-off between the two. And so this whole social distraction is something that, we want to be really conscious of and figure out how and when we just kind of go, okay, you're going face down. Or if I've got you face up with a metronome, I'm not answering phone calls. I'm not doing anything while I'm doing that. And I will encourage you to kind of figure out, kind of maybe how you kind of draw some lines in the sound around you and kind of, find that place in that time if you can. That's your regular practice time, because I will pretty much guarantee you it will improve the way you feel about yourself as a guitar player. It certainly does for me. All right. Yeah, no, that doesn't surprise me one bit. Not one bit. He lived to play guitar. Uh, and so there is a balance, the social media part. We're here on social media, right? So there is a balance and a blend, but what I just kind of this week spent like, wow, this thing is if I'm not careful and kind of choose when and where I put the two together, it becomes, I need to build boundaries. And yes, it is, that blend of the two is super important. It's just, for me, it's kind of having time to sit with the instrument and not be distracted means I can kind of build that focus that when I'm distracted, I can still have that focus that's happening running in the background. Sonia, thank you. Everybody, thank you so much. Have a great week. I'll see you next Saturday, and I'll see you on Thursday for something fun on Theory Geek Thursday. What a pleasure.